Welcome to your Education Hub. Today we are going to continue with the living world from class 11 as well as from NEET point of view. So this is the lecture 2. So let's start with the lecture 2 as well. So if you have ever downloaded a Telegram app from Play Store or iOS, then please join our channel. All kinds of PDFs, workbooks, tests, notes, everything will be given in this channel itself, and the link of the Telegram channel has been given in the description box below. So join the channel right now. So we are moving on with a very crisis time. All over India has been spreaded with COVID-19. So we need to team up with each and everybody around us by maintaining all the preventive actions given by as well as the medical associations of our country. So we need to team up and we need to fight with this COVID-19. So we need to wash our hands regularly and at least 20 seconds we need to wash our hands. We need to avoid the contact with the sick people. We should not touch with our nose or mouth with unwashed hands, and we need to we need to avoid crowded places like markets, etc. And we need to not to share. Sharing is very good thing, but in times of COVID-19 situation, we should not share anything like what we are eating presently or the utensils one is using. And if anyone in your house is sick, then please contact the hospital immediately with the hospital which is nearby. And we need to avoid traveling from one place to another. We need to stay home, stay safe. So let's start the lecture today. So who was Carolus Linnaeus? So Carolus Linnaeus was a Swedish. He was a Sweden. He was from Sweden, and he was called a Swedish. He was a Swedish botanist and zoologist and taxonomist. He played a very important role in the taxonomy. So let's read what it tells. Carl Linnaeus was a Swedish botanist, zoologist, taxonomist, and physician who formalized the binomial nomenclature, the modern system of naming organisms. So Carl Linnaeus was a Swedish botanist as well as zoologist, then taxonomist and physician who formalized the binomial nomenclature. Now, binomial nomenclature we have discussed in the previous lecture as well. So, binomial nomenclature is a kind of means naming of organisms. We in the previous lecture we have just in brief we have summarized the binomial nomenclature, but in this lecture we will be going in depth what is binomial nomenclature in the later part of the lecture. So he helped in the formalizing the binomial nomenclature, which means naming of the organisms. He is known as the father of modern taxonomy. He is also known as the modern father of modern taxonomy as well. The particular form of biological classification taxonomy set up by Carl Linnaeus has put in his Systema Natura and subsequent works. So he had made a book called Systema Natura in the year 1735, and along with his some subsequent works. He basically set up the classification or the taxonomy details, and in depth he discussed about what is that taxonomy and about its classification. So all its classifications was been discovered written in Systema Natura book, which was published in 1735, and along with his subsequent works. In the taxonomy of the Linnaeus, there are three kingdoms. It divided into three kingdoms, into classes, and then in turn into orders, genera, species with an additional rank lower than species. So these are the works of Carolus Linnaeus. I hope you have understood the work and who was Carolus Linnaeus and from where he was. So let's move to the next slide. Yeah. So two parts of scientific name. So in our name means we everyone is if they are Indians or some so people have two names. One is a title name and one is called as a surname. So like that, organisms were also being having two names. So scientific names only having two names, a regular name or the general name we used to talk regularly about organisms. So those organisms do not have, they have only a single name, but in case of scientific names, they have two names. The first part of the name is known as a generic name, and the second part of the name is known as a specific epithet. Now the first part, for example, we take an example like Magnifera indica, the scientific name of mango. Now Magnifera indica, the Magnifera is a generic name and indica is a specific epithet. So this is a very common example and hope you have understood what is a generic name and what is a specific epithet. So let's know what is generic name. So it's referred to in biology the name of a biological genus, placeholder, name, words that can refer to objects or people whose names are temporarily forgotten, irrelevant, or unknown. So, generic name in biology, the name of a biological genus. Placeholder. Now, genus, biological genus, we will be discussing about genus in this lecture itself in the later part. And now, placeholder name, it may be the placeholder name or the words that refer to objects. Now, different kind of names can be referred to as a generic name. Now, it may be referred to as objects or in the name of people or some temporarily forgotten, irrelevant, unknown places, unknown people names. So, these may or can be the generic name of a particular organism. Now, what is specific epithet? The second part of the species name in binomial nomenclature in any branch of biology. In botany, the second part of the botanical name, specific epithet also called the specific name, meaning the second part of the species name. Now, this is basically what we have discussed in if we give a name to a human being, it has two names. So, in that case, a surname is known as a specific epithet in human beings. So, specific epithet is like the name which is being produced or given, the title name. After that, the name which is being given is the surname is also known as a specific epithet. So in animals also have surnames which is known as a specific epithet as scientific names. So this is the second part of the species name. So hope you have understood what is generic name and what is specific epithet and which are the two parts of the scientific name. So let's move to the next slide. So what is binomial nomenclature? So, binomial nomenclature was first introduced by Carl Linnaeus, the one we have discussed in the first slide. So, binomial nomenclature is a multiple local names make it extremely difficult to identify an organism globally and keep a track of the number of species. So, multiple local names are being given. So we used to means, for example, we call lion. So lion is being called in English. Now, in for example, in India is a secular country. Different kinds of language is being given means as different languages are present in our country. Different people are being staying in different regions. Lion is said in English, but in different languages in Tamil or in Telugu or in Kannada or in Hindi or in Bengali. Every language have different names uh, in names of lion. So that's why it is all about India. Now, if we talk about the whole world, different names are being given to lion. For example, the Spanish people, the people who used to live in Spain, they are giving a different name to the lion. The people who are living in France, who are known as a French, they used to give different name to lion. So different people or the multiple local names are being given. So it becomes extremely difficult. People are saying the same thing, but the name which is being given is very much difficult from one another. So it becomes a very much difficult, extremely difficult. So to identify an organism globally means the whole world may be able to understand, you are able to identify a particular organism like lion. That's why, and keep a track of the number of species. So this binomial nomenclature is giving a single name, which is the scientific name. So scientific name is helping the scientist as it is being continued globally, so that each and every people in the world is speaking, means is giving the name of a lion as its scientific name. So that's why it is helping to track the number of species of a lion, means the number of lions is being staying. So this we have discussed on an example like lion. We can take an example of other animals too, like tiger, like monkey, everything. Now, thus it creates a lot of confusion. If we used to speak the, means if we used to call each and every organism in our local name, it becomes very much confusion. So to get rid of this confusion, a standard protocol came up. According to it, each and every organism would have one scientific name. So this only we have discussed, which would be used by everyone to identify an organism. So everyone should remember that one scientific name. No one should call region to region. No name should be changed. Only one name should be continued. But previously, earlier, the names were being called by each and everyone in the world as by its scientific name. As time passes, the remembering of scientific names has become difficult. So local names are in need, and that's why people are calling different organisms as by its local names. But we should remember not all, but the animals which are mainly we see in our daily life or in our surroundings, we should call by its scientific name. If we, the people who are very much passionate about the biology, so they are remembering, and the people who used to do very much culture with the different organisms like plants as well as animals, they used to remember each and every species by their scientific names. So this process of standardized naming is called a binomial nomenclature. So this is what binomial nomenclature is. Hope you have understood what is binomial nomenclature. So let's move to the next slide. So examples of binomial nomenclature. Now all living things or living species, including the plants, animals, birds, and also some microbes, have their own scientific names. For example, the scientific name of a tiger is presented as Panthera tigris. Now, Panthera is its generic name, and tigris is its specific epithet. Now Panthera represents the genus, tigris represents the particular species or specific epithet. Now only we have discussed. Now this is the image of a tiger. You can see very clearly. So next is the scientific name of humans. The scientific name of humans is Homo sapiens. Now Homo represents a genus and sapiens represents the particular species or specific epithet. Now Indian bullfrog is scientifically written as Rana tigrina. Now Rana is the name of the genus or the generic name, and tigrina or tigrina, what you ever call, the pronunciation very different. But then Tigrina is the name of the specific species or specific epithet or particular species. So these all are the images. So hope you have understood the examples of binomial nomenclature as well. So let's move to the next slide. So universal rules of binomial nomenclature. Now there are some universal rules. So let's know what are the rules are. The rest of the binomial nomenclature rules for the writing the scientific names of the organisms, including the following. All the scientific names of organisms are usually Latin. Most of the scientific names are being made as per Latin because binomial nomenclature or the naming of the organisms wasn't scientific, but these scientific names were being made in a very long period, means long time ago, for which most of the scientists, so those scientists were being prepared, means were being born, and they used to follow earlier in the world. Most of the languages used to follow Latin. Today's world is following Spanish. Spanish language is being continued in most of the countries. Most of the countrymen used to understand Spanish, but in those days, a long period of time, for example, 500, not 500, then 200 years ago or 300 years ago, people used to understand, the different people in our world used to understand Latin as a language, for which different scientific names, not different, all the scientific names are mostly Latin. Hence, they are written in italics. Like the normal name we used to write in our normal handwritings, but in case of scientific names, we should write the scientific names of each and every organism in the italics form. Now there exist two parts of name. The first word identifies a genus and the second word identifies a species. We have discussed now only. When the names are handwritten, they are underlined or italicized if typed. So if we write the names of the scientific name, sometimes in the exam, sometimes, not every time, sometimes in the exam, the in exams the name of the scientific name of organisms are being asked. So in those cases we cannot type it because those exams are mostly offline, and that's why we need to handwrite it, means handwritten it. So that's why we need to underline the scientific names. But in case of we are typing a scientific name, we always should write in it italics form. So this is done to specify its Latin origin. So this underlined or italicized if we type or if we are handwriting it. So this helps, makes us to specify to add its Latin origin. Means the origin of the names are from Latin. Now the name of the genus starts with a capital letter and the name of the species starts with a small letter. So like we used to treat our names like that way, universal rules are being made of binomial nomenclature or the naming of the species, that the capital letter of the genus, the starting letter would be written in capital in the part genus, and the small letter or the first letter of the species should be in small letter. So hope you have understood the universal rules of binomial nomenclature or the naming of the organisms. So let's move to the next slide. So what is taxonomy? So taxonomy is a science of naming, describing and classifying organisms, including plants, animals, microorganisms in this whole world. Now taxonomy is a science of naming. So the naming of the organisms is being described and classified organisms is known as a taxonomy. This classifications, these descriptions and these namings are being given to all plants, all animals and all microorganisms using their morphological, using their behavioral, using their genetic, using their biochemical observations, using the taxonomists, identification, or describe and arrange species into classification, including those that are new to science. So there are, for example, there are 20 lakh, means I am just taking an estimation. For example, 20 lakhs of organisms are there in this world. Humans, for example, estimating only humans beings have found up to 10 lakh. Now also, human beings are very much curious, and that's why human beings are in search of new organisms. So they are being means they have been finding different new organisms. So the new organism which is found, so that organism is also being classified as per the taxonomy. So people who are taxonomists, they used to culture about by identifying and by observing the new organism, by looking at its morphological behavior, behavioral, and then scientific genetic, biochemical observations. Looking at all these criterias, they used to name a particular organism. Now, hope you have understood what is taxonomy. So, let's move to the next slide. So, this is the taxonomic pyramid or the taxonomic tree used to call. So this is a particular taxonomic pyramid. So taxonomic categories. Species is the at most smallest because the similarity in species is the least. And then we have genus, family, order, class, phylum, kingdom, domain. Now, till kingdom, NCERT has been discussed. Now, domain we will discuss in this lecture. For knowledge, you can know about what is domain, but mostly till kingdom, the exam asks questions till kingdom. So you will know about domain as well. So this is a total structure, the most and the very much more similarities we make in domain. So this is the structure. So let's move to the next slide and discuss each and every part of this pyramid. So let's start with species. So taxonomic categories, species. The species is defined as a group of organisms that consist of similar individuals capable of interbreeding or exchanging the genes among themselves. So species is defined as a group of organisms. So a particular group of organisms that consist of similar individuals capable of interbreeding. These similar individuals in a species, they are capable of interbreeding or exchanging their genes by formation of a new generation or a new offspring. So in biology, species is the most basic unit of classification. So species is the most basic unit of classification as well as a taxonomic rank. The next taxonomic rank on the hierarchy is the biological classification is genus. On Earth, there are currently 8.7 million species. So living today, however, that number is just a fraction of all the organisms that have ever lived. 8 million species are living on this earth of having species. These 8.7 million species are living on this earth today. Many of the animals have become extinct, but then after that also 8.7 million species. But few years ago, a few centuries ago, 6.7 million species were about higher in this. So let's move to the next slide. So this is taxonomic categories called genus. This is the next part of the taxonomic pyramid. So genus. So genus is a group of species. Hence, uh, if in basic example in biology we give about this taxonomy, let's take a basic example to make our this concept clear. So if we discuss about a fundamental unit of life, then cell is the most fundamental unit of our life. So a number of cell forms tissue. Like that, in taxonomic category, in biology, number of this species make up, join with each other, forms genus as the next taxonomic category. So hope you have understood the genus as well. The genus consisting of what is genus. Now let's know by defining it. So that are closely related through common descent. A genus represents one of the several hierarchical categories called taxa, include only a small group of species which evolved from a relative recent common ancestor. A genus represents one of the several hierarchical categories called taxa. So this genus represents several, not one, a number of hierarchical categories called taxa, and these including only a small group of species, and which evolved from a relatively recent common ancestor, which has more characters common in comparison to species of other genera. In other words, genera are aggregates of closely related species. For example, genus Panthera comprises lion, Panthera leo, and leopard, Panthera pardus, and tiger, Panthera tigris. So these are the this total are these examples of genus. Now we have discussed previously itself that in biological nomenclature. So in that we have discussed that there were given the parts for the scientific names. We were having two parts, and genus is one part of them. So in that case, by including and by looking at that case, we can see that in genus, Panthera is the genus part, leopard in scientific name called Panthera pardus. So Panthera is the genus part, Panthera tigris. So Panthera part is the genus part. So hope you have understood the genus as well more clearly, and all these each taxonomic categories should be crystal clear. That will help you in exams as well. So let's move to the next slide. So taxonomic categories. Next is family. So family, a taxonomic rank in the classification of organisms between genus and order. The family in taxonomic pyramid or taxonomic tree. In this we can find family is between genus and order. The taxonomic group of one or more genera especially sharing a common attribute. So we have seen that a number of species is making up genera. Now one or more genera is forming a family. So they are sharing a common attribute. So a collection of things or entities grouped by their common attributes. Example, protein family, gene family, etc. Now examples of family are protein family, gene family. So collection of things or entities. A number of things collected or number of entities which are being collected. These are being grouped by their common attributes. So which are being forming a protein family, which are forming a gene family. So this is now a group of people descended from a common ancestor, a kin, a tribe. In taxonomy, a family is more precise than orders. And in taxonomy, a family is more precise. Then order. Order is the next part of taxonomic categories, which we will discuss in the next slide. So organisms belonging to the same family would have evolved from the same ancestors and share relatively common characteristics. So these organisms are belonging to same family and they are evolved from the same ancestors as well, and they are sharing relatively common characteristics with the uh, previous generation as well as with the next generation. So hope you have understood the taxonomic category called family. So let's move to the next slide. This is the next part of the taxonomic category, which is order. So, taxonomic rank used in classifying organisms generally below the class and comprised of families sharing of similar nature or character. So, taxonomic rank used in classifying organisms generally below the class and comprised of families. So, in order as well, these families are number of families are comprised of and they are having a similar nature or similar character in the uh, organisms. Now, a succession or sequence usually arranged in a series. A succession or a sequence is usually arranged in a series in taxonomy. Now, for instance, class Mammalia includes order Chiroptera, which is the bats. Now, we all know what are bats. So, these bats are the organisms which moves by the ultrasound and infrasound. I know if I think you are able to know what is ultrasounds and what are infrasound in physics. Now that is some other part. Now bats are the organisms which mostly we can see in some dark places or in night we can see where there are more trees or forest areas. Now order is class Mammalia includes order Chiroptera. Now in class Mammalia the order is Chiroptera. Now we will be discussing class, but before and we, what is order Chiroptera? Here are the bats. Now order primates, that is primates. Now order Carnivora. We all know what are carnivores, herbivores, omnivores. Among that, carnivore are the meat-eating mammals. We all know about that. Now next is order Cetacea, which is the whales and porpoises. So Cetacea is the name of the whales and porpoises. Now order Insectivora, which are insect eaters. So hope you have understood the taxonomic category called order. So let's move to the next slide. So this is the taxonomic categories called class. So class is a group or a set with common characteristics, attributes, qualities or traits. Now, these particular group is a set of with common characteristics, attributes, qualities, or different traits. A taxonomic group comprised of organisms that share a common attribute. So, class is this taxonomic category in which they are sharing a common attribute. Now, it is further divided into one or more orders. Now, in biological classification of organisms, a class is a major taxonomic rank below phylum and above the order. So, this is the place where we can see the class part in this taxonomic pyramid as well as in taxonomic tree. Now, for example, class Mammalia belongs to phylum Chordata. Now, class Mammalia is comprised of various orders such as Chiroptera, primates, and these are the orders, and then Cydia and many others. So as example, we can take as these are the examples of class Mammalia. Now in Mammalia, we can find this bat. We know it is as the mammals. Apes, we know it as mammals. So the more we are going to the more the pyramid is getting broader, the more the number of organisms are getting in one category or in one order of class. So we can see that while moving down in the taxonomic pyramid, we can see the number of organisms are being ordered, are being classed, are being classified. So this is being making the taxonomic category. This is the taxonomy which is helping the scientist, which is helping the biologists to make each and every organism in this whole world to be able to understand. For this taxonomy, these taxonomies are making easier for the biologist taxonomists and many other fields of the biology to culture with each plant in this world, with each animal in this world, with each microorganism in this world. So hope you have understood the taxonomic category called class. So let's move to the next slide. So this is taxonomic category called phylum. Now phylum is a taxonomic ranking that comes third in the hierarchy of classification after domain and kingdom. Now organisms in a phylum share a set of characteristics that distinguishes them from organisms in another phylum. Organisms in a phylum share a set of characteristics. They are having a set of characteristics that distinguishes them from organisms in another phylum. The qualities that group animals into a phylum have changed throughout the scientific history as better methods have arisen to determine how groups of animals are related. So the quality that group animals into a phylum, the qualities that makes that group animals, a number of animals are being grouped in phylum are having changed throughout the scientific history. So history is not only in time, history also goes in science as well. So scientific history has better methods have arisen to determine how groups of animals are related. So related, the animals having related relation in the phylum. So modern phylogenetic systematics or simply phylogenetics uses a variety of traits to map the changes between the different animals. In modern phylogenetic systematics, so modern phylogenetic or phylum system has simply phylogenetics use a variety of traits. So a variety of being traits are being used in modern phylogenetic and to map the changes between groups of animals. A group means a number of animals are being grouped together. So these changes which are being occurring in this group of animals, so this is going on. So this is the taxonomic category called phylum. Hope you have understood the phylum as well. So let's move to the next slide. So this is taxonomic category called kingdom. Now, in the study of taxonomy, the rank of kingdom is just below the domain. Now, as seen in the image below, all of the life thought to come from a single origin. The kingdom is the broadest, not broadest than domain, but then it is the broadest. All of life thought to come from a single origin, from one origin, can be broken down into lower levels of classification such as kingdom or phylum. Now, each consecutive level represents a more related group of organisms. Each consecutive level is representing a more related group of organisms, more organisms which is having relation. So this structure has evolved from only a few kingdom taxon with 3 or 4 lower divisions. Kingdom being the second highest division and having 6 divisions within that structure. So this structure is evolved from only a few kingdom taxon with 3 or 4 lower divisions. So these are having with 3 or 4 lower divisions to kingdom being the second highest division. So kingdom is the second highest division and having the 6 divisions within that structure. These kingdom is having 6 divisions within the structure as well. So we have understood what is kingdom, what is its importance in taxonomic categories. So let's move to the next slide. Now this is the last category and the final category, domain. The domain is not been mentioned in NCERT. Asking questions from domain is mostly going to be happening in some competitive exams as well. So let's know about domain for your extra knowledge, for your competitive knowledge. So in biology, a domain refers to the largest of all groups of in the classification of life. So there are currently 3 agreed groups at this level: Archaea domain, Bacteria domain, Eukarya domain. So Bacteria domain. So what is Bacteria domain? What is Archaea domain? What is Eukarya domain? So Bacteria domain means a large number of bacteria. Large number of bacteria form bacteria domain. Large number of eukaryotes from eukarya domain. Large number of archaebacteria forms archaea domain. Archaebacteria we cannot tell because archaea domain means a number of microorganisms. Now each domain contains a collection of organisms with similar properties and evolutionary histories as scientists have organized them. As scientists have organized with similar properties, collection of organisms with similar properties differ as similar. Each organism in these domains are having similar properties with each other and are having evolutionary histories. So evolutionary histories means that we, the humans, are being formed from the uh, monkeys. So this is the evolutionary history for a human being. Earlier we were monkeys, so we have been evolutioned by time, evolution by history, and we have formed as today as human beings. Now, as scientists have organized them, it should be noted that while the 3 domain system is widely accepted and taught, it has been contested by a number of scientists. It should be noted that while the 3 domain system, now each and every organism till kingdom, we have seen they are having number of classifications between each other. But in domain, we can see only 3 categories, 3 classifications. Means the scientists have examined, have observed for a long period of time, and after that they have come in decision, they have come in conclusion that there are 3 domains. One domain is archaea domain, one domain is bacteria domain, and the third domain is eukaryotic domain or eukarya domain. So it has been contested by a number of scientists. So these classifications are very big classifications. Single scientist or 2 scientists cannot join with each other and cannot make these domains. A large number of scientists have been culturing for a period of time, and then they have come in a decision, in a conclusion that these are the 3 domains. So hope you understood what are domain, what is the function, what is the vital and important role played by domain. So let's move to the next slide. So till now we have discussed all the taxonomic categories, each and every category in detail with examples. So hope you have noted all down or took the snapshots of each and every categories. These are very much important as per the exam point of view. So let's move to the next slide. So this is the organisms with their taxonomic categories. This is simply NCERT based table, and you can see number of questions every year from NEET, from 12, from 11 board. Every year question comes from this table. So common name, we call it every day in our surroundings. Each and everyone in this world call a human being as man, a woman. So all of them are human beings. So they are, man is the common name. Now biological name, they are, or the scientific name, they are Homo sapiens. Now genus name or the generic name is Homo. Family is Homo hominidae. Order is Primata. Class is Mammal or Mammalia. Phylum or division is Chordata. Now housefly is a common name. Biological name is Musca domestica. Genus name is Musca or Musca. The family is Musidae. Now order is Diptera. Class is Insecta or phylum or division is Arthropoda. Now mango. We have taken this example, this scientific example a number of times in our lecture. So Magnifera indica. Magnifera is a genus name or the generic name. Anacardia say is the family name. Sapindales is the order. Dicotyledome, this is the class. Angiosperma, this is the phylum or the division. Wheat, biological name is Triticum or Triticum aestivum. Genus is Triticum. Family is Poaceae. Order is Poles. Class is Monocotyledone. Phylum or division is Angiospermae. This full chart you should note it down or handwrite this in your notebook by drawing this table or take a snapshot and remember each and every part of this table. This is a very important and very much important as per the exam point of view. So let's move to the next slide. So this is the taxonomical aids and the last part of this chapter, the living beings or the living things. So taxonomic aids, let's start it. Taxonomical aids are the collection of samples or preserved organisms. So this is the collection of samples or preserved organisms. They itself, we can find the archaeologists are being digging different parts of our whole world to find the earlier organisms. We today are excavating the bones of dinosaurs, the bones of extinct animals. So these bones, these parts of those animals are being preserved for a number of huge period of time. They are being dumped inside the earth. Today we human beings are excavating, we are preserving in museums, in different kinds of organizations. So this is the preserved organisms which help in extensive research. These preserved part of these organisms are helping the scientists, are helping the different biologists to do research, how they adapt, how those animals in those times of the earth are able to adapt with their habitat. Are these biologists, these taxonomists, these zoologists, they are researching and identifying a various taxonomic hierarchy, but to keep those animals in this total taxonomic hierarchy. Classifying organisms into various categories needs a lot of field and laboratory study. So we cannot classify the organism by telling its structure by telling with its first appearance. We need to go in detail. We need to go in depth by seeing the structure or the anatomy by string its looking or researching at its uh, morphological, by looking and researching at its behavioral. So needs these are having a lot of fields. Now only we have discussed only some of them, but there are lot of fields, and then a laboratory. These all studies are in happened in laboratories by the scientists. This is an essential process because taxonomic categorization helps in identifying many organisms necessary in various fields like agriculture, industries, bioresources, etc. So this is an essential process because taxonomic categorization helps in identifying many organisms necessary in various fields like agriculture, industries, bioresources, etc. The taxonomical aids are the main source which helps us to studying the relative level of a group of organisms, their taxonomic hierarchy and the taxonomic rank. Now, taxonomic aids are the main source which helps us in studying the relative level of a group of organisms, their taxonomic hierarchy and the taxonomic rank as well. So hope you have understood the taxonomic aids. Now we will be going in the next slides or the upcoming slides in the taxonomical divisions of the categories where we can find taxonomical aids. So hope you have understood what are taxonomical aids. Let's move to the next slide. So this is the total taxonomical aids. You can take the snapshot of this. In this, we will be discussing as based on NCERT, we will be discussing our botanical garden, herbarium, museum, zoological park, and keys. Monograph, flora, and manual. We are not to discuss in this lecture. We will be discussing in some other lectures. But today we are going to study about botanical garden, herbarium, museum, zoological park and keys. So let's move to the next slide and discuss in detail what is herbarium and where herbarium is present in this whole world. So this is herbarium, the taxonomical aid. A category of a taxonomical aid is herbarium. So it is a store that houses a collection of preserved plant species. Now this is a store. This is a kind of store that collects, that houses a collection of preserved plant species. Plant specimens are preserved in forms of herbarium sheets, which are prepared by drying, pressing, preserving the samples of sheets. These sheets are then arranged in their order of classification in the taxonomic hierarchy. These herbarium sheets carry all the information about the respective specimen. Now these herbarium sheets carry on the information about the respective each and every specimen. These sheets carry on the information. So this is the total what is herbarium. Herbarium is a collection of preserved plant species. Now in the world where herbariums are present or located. Now Museum National d'Histoire Naturelle, Paris, France. So this museum is being located in Paris, France. This Museum National d'Histoire Naturelle is being located in France. New York Botanical Garden, Bronx, New York, USA. So New York Botanical Garden is a house, is a store of preserved plant species. It is an example of herbarium. It is located in New York, USA. Komarov Botanical Institute, Russia. So this is also a house. It also stores the collection of preserved plant species. It is also an herbarium. Russia is located in. Then Royal Botanic Gardens, Kew, England, UK. Now this is also an herbarium which is located in Kew, England, UK. Missouri Botanical Garden, United States. So this is also an herbarium. So till now, hope you have understood what is herbarium. This is the first category of taxonomical aids. So let's go to the next category of taxonomical aids. So this is the next category, which is botanical garden. So these are the gardens in which specific plants are grown and are labeled according to their taxonomy. So in these botanical gardens, from the name only you can understand that different species of plants are being kept. Some of the species are endangered. Some of the species are endemic. Means those species are found particularly in those places only, not in other places. So these species are being kept. These species are being kept which are being found only 2 or 3 plants or trees are being found in this total world. They are going to be extinct after a few years. Those species are being kept. Those species are being kept for the protection from hunters. So thus the levels carry their scientific names. These trees which are being grown in these botanical gardens are being named by their scientific names and family. The main purpose of botanical garden is to identify the plant species under consideration. So different scientists, different biologists used to go in these botanical gardens and look after and observe these particular species of plants and used to identify them. And then some of the examples of botanical gardens located in this whole world are Singapore Botanic Garden, Singapore, Royal Botanic Gardens, Sydney, Australia, Royal Botanic Gardens, Kew, England, Denver Botanic Gardens, Colorado, USA, Kirsten Bosch National Botanical Garden, Cape Town, South Africa, Montreal Botanical Garden, Canada, Acharya Jagadish Chandra Bose Indian Botanical Garden, Howrah, Kolkata. So these are the famous, these are the top botanical gardens located in whole world. So hope you have understood the second category of taxonomic aids, which is botanical gardens. So let's move to the next slide. This is the third category, which is museum. So museum. Biological museums are found in schools and colleges. Some schools, some colleges are having an adjoined museum in its infrastructure as well. So like biology laboratory that we find in our schools, in these museums, plants and animal species are preserved in jars and containers. So different plant species, different animal species have been preserved in jars. If you have gone to your school labs or if you have gone to the any kind of college laboratories, you will be able to see jars of animal species, jars of plant species are being kept, they are being preserved. They may also be dried and preserved. Birds and large mammals are usually stuffed before preserving and insects are killed and pinned in the boxes. Now, this preservation sometimes we used to need to kill those organisms and then we need to preserve. Without killing those organisms, we cannot preserve. So that's why for our observation, for our identification, we need to kill those organisms, but not in large scale. For example, if there are, for suppose, if there are 100 birds, only one bird is being killed, and 99 of them are alive, then one bird is being killed, and then we need to identify and observe over it in these laboratories. Like that way, insects are also being done. We sometimes find skeletons of various animals too. Now, if for a long time those animals are being preserved, after some period of time they are being decay, means the muscles, the different tissues, cells are being dried up. They, the skeletons come up. So skeletons are visible to us. So sometimes we used to identify different types of bones present in those organisms. Hope you have understood the museum as well, the third category of taxonomical aids. So let's move to the next slide. This is zoological parts. This is the fourth category of taxonomical aids. Now, these are the places where animals and birds. So before having the definition, let's discuss what are zoological parks. Zoological parks are those that in which endangered species of animals are being kept, endangered species of birds are being kept. While we observe in this, while we move in the zoological parks, we will be able to observe animals which are so much uncommon, which we do not able to see in our local environment. But those organisms were once being seen in our local environment. Nowadays, due to hunting, due to poaching, these animals are getting endangered. So they are being kept in some protected places. So that protected places are zoological parks, that protected places are wildlife sanctuaries, and that protected places are national parks. And birds are being kept, sometimes birds are being kept in bird sanctuaries as well. So an attempt is made to provide them with a habitat closest to their natural habitats. Now, an attempt is being made to provide them a habitat closest to their natural habitats. The zoological parks are being made. Now, these habitats are being, as they are man-made, they are being made in such a way that the animals, the endangered animals which are staying in those places doesn't feel that they are not in their natural habitat. They should feel that they are in their natural habitat. Because that kind of places are being made as per by the mankind. So those we get a chance to learn about the natural habitats and behavior. So different kinds of biologists, scientists, taxonomists, so zoologists, so they also go in these places to look after, to learn, to identify, to observe their natural habitats and behavior. Zoological parks are open for human visits. But then, examples of zoological parks. These examples I have kept from our country only. So they are Nandankanan Zoological Park, very famous zoological park in Orissa. Padmaja Naidu Himalayan Zoological Park from West Bengal, then Sakarabog Zoological Park from Gujarat, and Indira Gandhi Zoological Park from Andhra Pradesh. So these all are the zoological parks. Many zoological parks are located in our country, but we have taken only among four of them. So hope you have understood about this zoological park as well. So let's move to the next slide. So this is the last part, which is keys. So the last part of the taxonomical aids, not the last part of the taxonomical aids from the taxonomical aids made by the scientist, but as per NCERT, we are taking keys as a last part. As per the NCERT book, which we have been prescribed by our school, by CBSE, in that book we can see keys as a last part. But in some other lectures, we will be discussing about other as well, others aids as well. So let's discuss what is keys. Now this is a taxonomical aid where plants and animals are recognized based on their contrasting characteristics known as keys. This is a taxonomical aid where plants and animals are recognized is on contrasting characteristics. On contrasting characteristics, we can identify, we can recognize this is known as keys. Two contrasting keys are generally kept as a pair, thus leading to the acceptance of one and thus rejection of another. Two contrasting keys are generally kept as a pair, means they are being made as a pair that are leading to acceptance of one's and rejection of the another organism, another plant. So this is all about keys. So this is only a short part which we have discussed. So keys in detail you will be able to understand more if you read about the text or the passage which is being mentioned in NCERT book prescribed by CBSE. So read that part of the keys, you will be understanding more about it. Means the basic we have discussed. If means the depth or the if you read, you will be able to easier for you to understand from the NCERT book. So hope you have understood the keys as well. The last part of our taxonomical aids as per NCERT. So thank you, and this video ends here. So thank you for watching, and hope all your concepts from this chapter are simply crystal clear, because concepts are very much needed. We cannot memorize all the things which are being described in these chapters. In class 11 and 12, we cannot memorize anything, both from science, means from all the subjects, from PCB to PCM, everything we cannot memorize. It's not possible. So we need to make clear, we need to assure ourselves that all our concepts are clear from each and every chapter, from biology, from physics, from chemistry, everything. So hope all your concepts are clear from this chapter, and they should be crystal clear as well. So if you have any doubt, mention it in the comment section below, and we take a lot of efforts to make this conceptual videos for you people. So for that, like our video, subscribe our channel, and hit the bell icon to get regular updates from our channel, and share as far as you can, because this is a period of lockdown going in overall the country. So many people are unable to study, many people are unable to having their coaching classes. So try to share with those people. We need to make this all India as education free India. So share how much you can, and subscribe and like the video if you have understood all the concepts clearly. So hence, bye bye. We will meet at the next lecture.